With the crypto market receiving a micro bounce today, risk on assets in general are in watch and wait, squirt and hurt mode as the money supply has been rocketing, which is likely going to initiate the strongest, fastest V-shaped recovery pump in history. But the question remains, will it be big or will it be very big? So if you understand the pump is coming and the pump is coming big time, hit that like and subscribe, get signed up to FEMX or BITUNIX below for my Bitcoin altcoins or trade. As well with FEMX, now you do not need KYC in order to sign up if you use my link below. And without any further ado, let's take a look first at this chart, which is a chart that's so big I have trouble believing that it's a real chart. So if you're looking at this chart, I want you to maybe pause it, or just maybe we can take a few seconds to really just analyze this and look and think what makes the most sense for this chart. What is likely happening here? Are we, as we had support here, and we broke down out of support, and as we come up to it, are we potentially going to face a massive rejection down lower and continue this trend that, if we zoom back, has been going on actually for quite a long time, right? Well, that's exactly right. This is Bitcoin inverted, meaning what the Bitcoin chart actually looks like is extremely bullish, right? And I love doing that. I do it, a couple times a month, just invert it to kind of mess with your bias, because people have bias. But realistically, this just looks like a backtest, or as we had it flipped, a rejection if we're looking at it the opposite way, which is very likely, I think, what the next massive move is. We could still go lower. Again, on this chart, it would be higher because the chart's inverted before getting that rejection, AKA the giga bounce. But another massive thing we're seeing is the M2 money supply, which you can see here, or just the money supply, has been going up pretty much since the very beginning of 2025, since January of 2025, right here. And there is about a 2.5 month lag, usually, before we see that reflected in risk assets or Bitcoin specifically. Meaning, this entire time that the money supply has been increasing, Bitcoin was trading sideways and trending downwards, a mix of sideways and dumpiness. We can expect, I personally think, for that to change. Now, again, one of probably the biggest reason the stock market, Bitcoin, and risk assets are dumping right now is specifically because of what the Trump administration wants to do in terms of putting on these tariffs and purposely trying to bring actual inflation down, which, as we talked about in the last few videos, is actually working. So if this is a manufactured dump, keep in mind, then we're very likely to also see a manufactured pump. Realistically, that would be a very good thing if we actually brought inflation down. And then if we saw the Fed's hand be forced and inflation, if inflation is actually coming down, which we're seeing it actually finally start to come down over just the last couple of weeks, like true inflation, and the Fed cutting rates / money printing, markets will go bananas if that's actually what ends up happening. And it looks like that's exactly what so far has been playing out. Now, with that being said, Bitcoin risk on assets like the S&P, the SPX, which is this chart right here, are literally going down in a straight line intentionally. That's the key part here, because if this was happening but the government was actively trying to put out legislation that did the opposite and it was doing the opposite of what they wanted, that would be an issue. That isn't what's happening. They're quite literally telling us that over the short term, it's going to be rocky, bumpy. We're going to see some short-term pain, and we are seeing short-term pain. So as of right now, with the information we have right now, the market is literally doing exactly what they told us it was going to do. And that's important because that shows that they have at least some control on the current situation, right? And if we look at, for example, the weekly chart of the SPX, currently sitting right around the 50-week moving average, this green line here, which is about 5,600 or so roughly on the SPX. We did come down to that most recently back in October of 2023 before a massive move up. Again, these corrections are normal and necessary in bull markets as well, not just for Bitcoin, but also for the stock market. Seeing pullbacks in the stock market is equally as healthy as it is in any other market, right? You need pullbacks, period. And we also see Bitcoin currently bouncing off of its 50-week moving average right here. This is again, we haven't even come down to where maybe like the $75,000 level per Bitcoin, which is where we could expect a true retest to go all the way down to. We haven't gone there just yet, which is why I'm not convinced we're not done with any short-term dumpiness. And fear is still massively apparent in these markets. People are still very fearful. For example, people that are short-term holders are realizing a lot of losses right now, indicated by this chart right here. A lot of people that are short-term, newer to the markets, they don't necessarily understand how the market works, and they have a lot of emotional issues, right? They're just not good at managing their emotions. Those people have not been doing well over the last couple of months, since about the middle of February. Additionally, a Bitcoin continuation pattern seems to be forming, a falling wedge pattern. It's trading in this bullish falling wedge pattern where a lot of people are very fearful. You can see it, better illustrated here. There's absolutely a lot of fear in these markets right now. There was a lot of fear in the markets like 2 months ago when Bitcoin was trading in this range. Now we're down even more. Of course there's fear. And again, that's echoed. I don't have to justify this. I justify it pretty much every day by showing how fearful the market is, literally more fearful than the bottom of the last bear market at 15K. There's somehow more fear in this market. Again, primarily because altcoins have been performing so badly. But that's exactly when we could expect this market to bottom and go up only for months at a time. Exactly right about now. Or coming up very soon, not necessarily this week, but coming up very soon. The end of the bull market might be here. The Bitcoin crash is coming. This is literally exactly what I was saying. This is an inverted chart. If you look at this, you think, oh, wow, this looks really bad. Especially if you want to be very bearish on this market. You think, wow, this looks awful. But then you realize, oh, wait, this is inverted. And this means actually a Bitcoin would be pumping because down on this chart actually means up because it's inverted. Then it smashes your bias a little bit because people tend to pick a bias and justify and rationalize that bias no matter what happens. This is a nice little trick to get people to realize that maybe they're not looking at things objectively. We see as well, Bitcoin will surge to about 180,000, then crash to 140,000 and people will freak out again. Of course, guys. I mean, this literally just did happen in the sense that we went up to 110,000, crashed all the way down so far to about 77,000, and people are saying, oh, Bitcoin's dead again. I mean, this is a story that's old as time. It repeats forever. If you're new to this market, it might seem scary and it might seem like this time it actually is over. But what you need to do is spend 4 years, at least one full cycle, being in this market, spending a lot of time going through the emotions and learning how the market works. And then you realize, oh, this is just exactly what it's always done. Except the one thing that Bitcoin has always done is that over time, it's gone up and up only. Yes, there's dumps, there's pullbacks, okay? But if you look at a chart, if you would have to ask yourself, who is right? If we look at this objectively, who has been right on Bitcoin? Is it people that are bullish or is it people that are bearish? If you're being honest, then there is only one correct answer. It's people that are bullish, right? Over long enough time, it's only been going up. This is data. This is fact. This is objective. This is not up for debate. You can't have an opinion because, and this chart even goes back actually a lot further, but this is what Bitcoin has done for the past over a decade, right? About a decade and a half. And so if you had to pick between like who is right, who is wrong, people that have been long-term bullish on Bitcoin have been right. People that have been bearish on Bitcoin long-term have only been wrong, okay? And with that data, you can look at these moments where currently Bitcoin is not at an all-time high. In fact, it's, about 30% from all-time highs, or actually with this most recent move up, about 21%, 22% from all-time highs. Still absolutely normal correction. With that data, you realize, oh wait, I would be dumb. I would be stupid to think that there's any data telling us this is the end, especially when we have the most bullish framework, policy, regulation, stuff coming through the pipeline in terms of crypto overall macro picture that we've ever had before. This is the dumbest time to be bearish. And funny enough, of course, with this most recent move down, I have seen the most comments in the past 2 years of people being bearish. But that's the thing. The people that are leaving the bearish comments on my videos, on anyone's videos, on Twitter, on people that are giving up, those are never experienced people, right? They're never people that have been through the 4-year cycle. They're people that are emotional, that are scared, that are inexperienced, that will flip their opinion anyway, right? Like the wind. For example, right now, we've been basically in a downtrend for the past 50 or so days. And the people that are just saying, oh, it's over, I'm selling it, it's all going to zero. If we pump again, they're going to be the ones shouting the loudest, oh, we're actually going to 300,000, we're going to 4, right? Their opinion's going to change like that. And that's why you can't take those type of opinions seriously. But they are important as a whole, because when we start getting the most bearish comment amounts and bearishness that you could imagine, that usually indicates we're close to a bottom. And as I've just said, I have received more bearish negative comments in the last 2 to 3 weeks than I have of like the last 2 years. People are capitulating. Who is capitulating? It's these people. It's short-term investors with not a lot invested, not a lot of experience, not a lot of, just not a lot of experience. Those are the ones that are panicking, just like always. That's not new, right? I've been in this market for 8 years. The people that panic, the people that don't do well, are the people that have less experience and they have less emotional capabilities. And that's the way the world works. Like, there's always going to be a subset of people that are emotionally challenged that also are the loudest of the group, and they make it seem like they're the majority, but it's the very, very loud vocal minority, right? You take that 1 or 2% of people that just panic over every little move, trying to scare other people out of positions because they got trapped out of their positions. They want other people to fail because they failed. They're always the minority, but they're just very, very, very loud. And as well, is this a potential bottoming pattern in Bitcoin with a potential double bottom? If we look at the daily chart for Bitcoin, it's very possible, right? Will we go lower? Nobody can say for sure. But all I know is that currently these markets are purposely trying to be brought down by the Trump administration to try to lower inflation so that I think it's like $6 trillion of debt can be refinanced. Whether you want to believe it or not, because a lot of people just don't want to believe it, potentially there's some strategy there, right? And if that's the case, if they can intentionally try to bring down inflation by drastically moving the market in the short term so that people can benefit in the long term, then maybe as well we can expect things to be better in the long term. And so again, this market, even with this most recent multi-week dump, this crash is still in line with what a normal dump should and would look like. And if you look at Bitcoin on a weekly chart, does this look like a trend is broken? Right? This is a weekly chart. We go from 15K to where we are right now. Does this look like the trend is switched massively bearish? No, it really doesn't. In fact, could we go all the way? I mean, this white moving average, the 100-week moving average down here, this would be pretty bearish if I'm being honest. But we're not anywhere near that. We're bouncing right now off of the 50-week moving average all the way up here around 76,000. So overall, I would just say hold your horses. This bounce could get very big, potentially one of the biggest V-shaped bounces we've ever seen. Okay, let's say we either bounce here and go straight up, or we go a little bit lower in a more V-shape, straight up fashion, or straight down fashion, and then go straight up 10 times harder. Would that surprise you? For a lot of new people, it would surprise them. For people that have been in the market for at least a full cycle, it would not surprise them. And get set up with FEMX or BITUNIX below if my Bitcoin altcoins are trade as well. FEMX does not require, if you use my link specifically below, does not require KYC. Without further ado, it's from me.